I'm all right.
That's awesome.
There's always opportunity. I mean,
Guys, I'm super excited to introduce you to Maggi Thorne. Maggie is the CEO of Joy Flow Company. She is a motivational speaker and a 7-time competitor on the American Ninja Warrior program. She is an incredible personality. She is such a interesting entrepreneur. Her zest for making a difference makes her a perfect guest for this podcast. I'm so excited to have her. I really am excited to learn more about her story. Her message on her website, MaggieThorne.com, equip, empower, and encourage, really comes across. When we first got together to actually have a conversation about the possibility of her being a guest, that call went way longer than either of us expected because we resonate so highly on so many things. Her commitment to making a difference out there in the world is evident, and I'm so grateful for her to be a guest on the Ripple Effect podcast. So let's dive right in. Guys, I am so excited to have Maggie Thorne join us today. Maggie, welcome to the Ripple Effect podcast. How are you doing today?
thank you. Super excited. Love the energy. Have my coffee. Pink lips ready. Let's go.
I love it. And you've got really cool fingernail polish too, it looks like.
Yeah, when I'm not in training season, I tend to do my nails. So my kids said, "Oh, you look like jelly beans," and I was like, "Well, that wasn't what I was going for." But yeah.
Yeah, they always have a way of humbling us, don't they?
Oh, very much. I'll think I'm like awesome, and they're like, "You look like a grandma," and I'm like, "What's wrong with that?" First of all, don't make me a grandma. Second of all, I'm so impressed. So sometimes I have to like give it back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to, it just keeps them honest that way. So how old are your kids?
My son is 16, so he's a
Okay.
driver. And then I have a 14-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old daughter.
Oh, wow. Oh, I bet they keep you on your toes.
High emotion. My son is pretty much like, I just want to not be around girl drama, and my girls are all drama. So my little girl, I got a perfume named Sassy because that's me. And I'm like, yeah, at least we can own this, right? So,
I
yeah.
love it. Well, I love to start off these podcast episodes by getting a sense of kind of an origin story for my guests. And so, I mean, you are someone that, as I mentioned, when you and I first connected, I was following, thanks to LinkedIn, sort of making a recommendation in some connections that we have in common. But I really just love your enthusiasm and sort of your commitment to making a difference out there, which made you a perfect guest for the podcast. But how did you become this awesome version of yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind introduction. I really believe in just embracing our journeys. And I'm from San Diego. I didn't grow up playing sports. I'm from a low income family. I didn't even play sports until high school because a
Oh,
teacher
wow.
recommended, "Hey, this girl looks fast in PE." And that led me to actually become the number one runner in California, which is what got me recruited on a full ride to run track in Nebraska. So I traded the beaches, the cornfields,
Big difference. Yeah.
big difference. But I got into actually managing multi-million-dollar construction projects, and then my brother died, and then my best friend died, and the day of her funeral is when I felt called to build people and
Yeah.
not buildings, and I had moved up quickly in my career in managing construction projects. But the reality is, wow, I could build all of these things, but what if I could really help build people, be someone who can equip, encourage, empower? Lo and behold, Ninja Warrior fits under that umbrella to have this
Yep.
platform to share and advocate and really encourage people. I mean, you've seen it, and we were just talking about it. People have had all these obstacles in their life,
Yep.
and it kind of comes alive on the stage American Ninja Warrior. It really is so much more than just taking on the obstacles on this show. There's this deep personal side of you that's an overcomer that everyone has, and we just unlock it in different ways. And mine
Yeah.
was a TV show.
I love it. So what was the inspiration behind joining that and going for that? Because that's a grueling training process in order to, to actually compete, right?
I had a background actually in obstacle racing.
Okay.
I picked that up. in my mid-30s. I'd had 3 kids, and I was like, I think I'm going to become a professional athlete in my mid-30s after having 3 children. That's what everybody does. Some people knit, and I wanted to become a pro athlete. So one of my friends actually had been on the show, Jessie Graff. Many people know her. Her and I were actually roommates in college.
Now she's a stunt woman, right?
She's a stunt
Okay.
woman,
Yeah.
which actually was part of my college life. She's like, "Hey, I need you to, like, hit me with the car so I can practice rolling over it." I'm like, "I don't know if this is what normal roommates do." It was always very exciting, or she needed to practice tackling, and I had to learn, and I was like, "I actually, that one I don't wanna sign up for anymore, Jessie, like, let's go back to the other things." But I knew she had been on the show and really loved it, and I just kinda prayed about it and really felt like that's where I was being led, and I tried out, made it my first year, did terrible. I fell on the first obstacle, super embarrassing because I mean, up until that point, like, I got 2nd place at the world's toughest mudder. I mean, here I was, this person, I ran 75 miles in 24 hours, get
Wow.
2nd. I was Mrs. International, like, I was knocking these things out of the park, so I was like, American Ninja Warrior. Humble moment.
Yeah.
The camera's in your face. "You fell. How does it feel?" "Amazing." Yeah. But I really felt like that was a part of my path, and so I tried out again, and I was rejected, and I tried out again, and I was rejected. So I'm on year 3 of the American Ninja Warrior journey, and people are like, "Obviously, they don't want you. This isn't for you," and I mean, realistically, we all know that's their own insecurities and
Sure.
thoughts.
Yep.
I knew what I was supposed to do. I know who I am. I know what I'm meant to do. I'm gonna keep going. And so I figured that out. And it was year 4 when I came back as the top female in my region and made it to Vegas and then continued to have success on the show.
So you actually have to compete at a regional level in order to qualify to go out to, the main show tryouts, or how does that work? I'm fascinated by that.
So you apply
Okay.
with 3-minute video and like a 600-page application. Not really. It feels that way. It's really long. Even if you've been on the show, you have to apply every year, and they get about 80,000 applications and
Wow.
choose 500 people to compete. And so talk about interviewing under pressure. And you send that in, and that's how they select you. And then you show up to compete. And there's a round 1, round 2, finals, and that's it. You don't
Wow.
get to test the obstacles. You don't get to try them. It's all 100% just for fun. So,
Wow. So you don't know going in what you're going to be facing. It's all wow.
no, everybody tries to find out. I will tell you that, like, people will stake out the courses and go, "Has anybody seen anything?" But you don't, and I enjoy it. I mean, realistically, in life, we should always be preparing for everything all the time, not just one specific thing. That's the best way to show up ready. Actually, that's the best way to have a ripple effect too, being
Yeah.
prepared at any time for anything and having a mindset that, well, this is all possible and I'll figure it out. I mean, that's the reality of it because you could also get dialed in on just one obstacle that you forget everything else. And then, well, what was that worth?
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
it's
that's great. I mean,
awesome.
it's really good. That's a really great perspective. I love that. What do you think you learned about yourself by going through the process of getting on the show and just the experience?
The number one thing I've learned is, well, there's 2 things, but the first would definitely be it's not always your time. It might be, it might not be,
Yep.
and that's helped me balance training and balance life. I think people really burn themselves to the ground and overdo it, and the anxiety and the pressure, and then they show up, it's not even fun anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in addition, they could go out on obstacle 1, and then they're really devastated because 'cause they're like, "All these sacrifices I made," and you're like, well, don't be imbalanced in the first place. And that I really advocate for on any level for anybody. Even the team I run now, I really champion their personal lives. And so I believe in that for training is that I don't necessarily just want to live and breathe Ninja Warrior. There's a
Yeah.
lot of life to live. And then the second is knowing that like there could be someone who's older, younger, all these things, and we all have different things we wrestle with. Some of the younger kids, they might be wrestling with their egos, you know, um, I mean, any number of things, or not knowing how to be under pressure. It is intense
Yeah.
on set. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces. There's a production crew of a couple hundred people, the cameras. I mean, it's bigger than you expect. Some of
Yeah.
those platforms you're on, you're a story high,
Yeah.
and going into a 4-foot pool of water, you know. Um, and so that's just, it can be intimidating. And if you know how to deal with all that, you might actually have a better chance of getting through those obstacles. And that happens. That is what it comes down to. Believe it or not, it's just some of that experience, and even some of the people who are veterans, or you think, oh my gosh, we can talk ourselves out of things. We
Yeah.
can talk ourselves out of impact. We can talk ourselves out of opportunity because we don't know how to interact with opposition and see it as opportunity in the first place. And so there's been people who I know they train more, all they put in, and I'm like, well, doesn't mean I'm going to stop from trying. And a lot of times, honestly, like I end up going further and I don't train as much as they do or have the experience. And that's just it, mental play comes into it a lot. That's an area I probably excel well.
I love that. Well, and so were you speaking professionally before Ninja Warrior, or was that, what was the timing of becoming this, I mean, I've watched a
Mhm.
lot of your talks and speeches, and you're phenomenal. I mean, you just really, really have a real spark from the stage. I'm very impressed. And so what kind of chicken, was it a chicken before, what do they say? The chicken before the egg or whatever in
It
terms of
depends
the,
on what part
what
of the
came
world
first.
you're in. I mean, and the hippo before the alligator. I don't know. Um,
I
you know,
like that one better. That's a really good one.
yeah, use it. So for me, I will say it goes back to advocacy. I had a teacher in high school who championed me, who still does, believe it or not. She's
Yeah.
retired. We still connect. She sends me messages. Don't forget to rest, Maggie. She's so sweet. She recommended me for a national conference when I was 17. So I spoke at a national conference at 17, and it continued to have opportunities. I had opportunities to interact with media through managing construction projects, being
Yep.
outward facing sometimes with Nebraska athletics. And then also the piece of it when I was leaving Nebraska athletics, and I knew I had some weaknesses that I wanted to turn into strengths. And
Yeah.
that's when I competed for Mrs. International. It was a platform pageant. And I ended up becoming a international spokesperson for a nonprofit. So I got to travel the world on their behalf and do a lot of
Wow.
advocacy. And that's where I got trained by a former Miss USA. I had media training, and I knew these were areas that, okay, if I'm going to go on a show like American Ninja Warrior, and you're working with executives whose job is to create a storyline, you better have power in knowing how to tell your own story.
Yeah.
And there's some people who also say, don't do elevator speeches. They don't believe. I'm like, no, 100%. Everybody needs one. You should be able to tell someone something in 30 seconds, 300 seconds, whatever that looks like. 3,000 is at your core. You know your who, you know your why, and then you're able to share that with the world. And so that has been an ongoing journey, but doing Mrs. International really shaped that. I mean, I toured the country doing media interviews and press. And so when I showed up for Ninja Warrior, that was like a comfortable
It's no
space
big
for
deal to
me.
you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually been really sweet and fun, because sometimes other ninjas will be like, how do I do my interview? And I'm like, oh, you want to know how to control the room in front of producers? Awesome. Let's talk. Well, but I think anybody should do that, whether you want to be on a TV show or not,
Yeah.
being equipped with those kinds of skills. Most people don't have public speaking skills,
Right.
and we should all be able to get up and tell a story and share.
Absolutely. So, since you opened the door, what is your 30-second to 300-second intro for yourself?
Growing up in a low income home, I know what it's like to not have resources. My goal in life is to help equip, encourage, and empower people to never give up.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic.
All
That's
right, your
yeah, and
turn.
like you said, that it ticks all the boxes and inspires at the same time. You want to know more.
Yeah, your turn. You got to give it a try. Ready?
I help people, embrace the importance of building connections the right way, right? Whether that's for their personal or professional networks or to build their own businesses, helping people kind of cut through the chatter that we are often distracted by and really build in, unique opportunities to create conversation with people that you really want to get to know better.
Jump right in.
See, we'd be the dynamic duo right there. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
that was great.
Yeah. So, well, let me ask you. So, when you moved into, sort of this next phase with regards to kind of your entrepreneurial career, tell us a little bit about that, because I mean, your website maggiethorne.com is really awesome. There's a lot of great resources on there, very inspirational. But tell us a little bit about that journey. Has that been like being an entrepreneur?
I really always stay focused on those 3 E's: equip, empower, and encourage,
Yep.
and if it doesn't align with that, it doesn't really stay within the spectrum of my vision of where I'm going. We have to have a clear vision. It just helps us, de-stresses us. We're able to have more of a ripple, more of an impact if we know those pieces. So it all stays under that umbrella, and entrepreneurship goes into that. I constantly tell women, glass ceilings, build your own building. Like this, like get away from the whole breaking glass ceilings.
Yeah.
Well, because that already starts them off in a negative mindset. That's not
Sure.
very
Yeah.
empowering. You always think that you're below looking up. You you can believe that, and then you're not even starting yourself out as an equal. Why would we do that? So
Yeah.
I've really operated in that way and advocate for it and have the proof and the backup for that,
Hmm.
to be able to really stand behind what I'm saying. And I want that. I want to say I believe in this, and they say, well, um, maybe I didn't grow up like you did. I'm like, what do you mean wearing F-15 Eagle t-shirts and getting locked in lockers? Like, what are you talking about? I mean, I was the nerdiest nerd you could have until like, well, I still am. I was like, wait, no, that didn't go away. So it's so awesome to go into these places, especially in maybe countries that have poverty or kids that don't have great circumstances. I didn't My childhood was chaos. And so being able to be like, yeah, you can choose.
Yeah.
You can, knowing that empowering piece, the encouraging, like to have a teacher look at a kid and say, I believe in you,
Yeah.
change your life.
Yep.
And so
Absolutely.
that's that piece of it, of this full circle of getting out there and being able to share these stories. And most people, like I know I won't touch everyone's soul and heart, but if there's this little ripple
Yeah.
of inspiration that it might impact in 10 years, like, oh, I remember someone, 10 years ago that mentioned, yeah, it plants a seed. You have no idea what that'll do. And I've had people interact, and so I really believe in, like, paying it forward. How can we share, and what does that look like? And I think you have that personality too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, without question. We are definitely simpatico on that front for sure.
Yeah.
So where does that drive come from, do you think? Is that because you came from, a childhood that was challenged, or did you learn that, where do you think that spark really was initiated?
I think I mean, for me, with my faith, my purpose,
Yeah.
knowing that this is what I'm meant to do, and listening to that. I mean, despite people's disagreement, that can be the most difficult part. And I talk about this a lot with people, like, it is so important to not just know your why, but that it's big enough that it doesn't matter realistically when other people are gonna say, "You shouldn't do it," and they'll question your why.
Hmm.
Biggest answer you're gonna have to give is for yourself.
That's right.
And look in the mirror and say, "Well, this is why, and this is why I'm still going." And I mean, I gotta tell you, on this whole journey that I was on, it was an incredible amount of rejection and disbelief, and people saying, "I don't think you should do this. Like, you're having this hardship. Clearly, it's not the path for you then." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Like, all the bumps in the road, like, even if we have to, like, talk in biblical terms, like, yeah, when it gets hard, that's usually the path. I mean,
Yeah.
and so I know and accept, and also know, like, there's gonna be impact in it if my path over here is the one with, like, snakes and barbed wire and alligators that spit fire. I mean, like, oh,
Do you have a
yeah,
lot of those in Nebraska? I'm just curious.
yeah, actually, I but mine is not like this beautiful meadow that
Yeah.
has maybe, like, a couple pebbles on it. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, see you guys later. I'm over here.
Yeah.
But also that journey has always been incredible, and I know people don't understand it. I don't need them to. Uh,
Right. Right.
and surrounding myself with that boardroom, that team of people who get it and support it, and but can still speak truth, in a loving way.
Yeah.
But just, I mean, it's so nice to when you really know your team. We should all have a team and be able to go in that direction, but that they respect you enough too, that knowing like, well, she doesn't have to agree with me and we're still great support of each other. So
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I do love that. So you are you've got your own enterprise that you run, and then you also are in the tech space, right? So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I it's something that when you and I connected for our conference call, you could really tell there was a spark there. You're really excited about the work that you're doing and the contribution you're making in the tech world.
yeah, thank you for asking that. I'm so excited. So I'm the director of innovation and tech education, really long name, for a nonprofit called AIM Institute, and it fits within my life mission. I mean, their goal is to build a diverse tech talent community, and they do that through outreach programs, access, technical training, a number of resources that are free. And I know what those resources have meant to me in my life. I couldn't even afford a pair of shoes the first day I showed up for track. And sometimes someone just needs a chance and a little bit of resource and encouragement, empowerment. And AIM is all of those things, like whether it's they have a free code school program. How many places do you hear that you can get certified in code school for free? Like that's
Yeah.
you don't actually hear of that. And
No.
so to be able to offer these kinds of resources, they have a tech navigator that does one-to-one career counseling. And those are other things like, oh my gosh, someone to have that kind of resource. So it really aligns with all of my life's mission, even the entrepreneurship piece, being able
Yeah.
to act in the space where people were like, yeah, I want to start my own online plant app to be able to do landscaping. I'm like, awesome. You're in tech. You're in tech.
Yep.
Like people don't realize how much tech cross all of our paths.
Yeah.
And AIM gets to help that life cycle of the tech industry, and really awesome putting on things like conferences. We host the largest Midwest developers conference called Heartland Developers Conference, and gathering tech professionals. And those are things that are so fun for me. I'm a gatherer. I love seeing people to come together and be inspired. And so I'm so grateful. It feels like all these, like my little heart buckets are getting filled through AIM. And ultimately, what's that going to do? It's going to pour out into others too.
That's right.
So it's really,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, when you were telling me about it, it became obvious that you were definitely on a path that you were destined to be on, and contributing in so many different ways. But this one ticks a big bucket because, like you said, a lot of times people don't consider that tech, space as a career path because they lack the confidence, or they may fear
Mhm.
that the mountain is too steep to climb. And it really is becoming one of the best places to really, especially if you're considering, career change, or you're looking to do
Mhm.
something, completely different, or you're getting into, sort of the work world for the first time. There's
Yeah.
so many avenues and opportunities within the tech world.
Oh, it's endless. It really
Yeah.
is endless. I mean, there's, I think in the Midwest alone, 50,000 tech jobs that go unfilled. And most companies, what people don't realize, most companies just want someone anymore with like a certificate.
Yeah.
And they're willing to pay for on the job training to be able to have that kind of tech talent. Well, AIM has those resources. So
That's
it's
awesome.
incredible.
That's
Get
great.
into tech.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, so I want to throw a couple what I call ripple connection questions at you. Are you game?
I'm game
All right.
always.
So, what would you say your superpower is?
My superpower is seeing someone that has had hardship and being able to tune into when they just might need some encouragement, and breathing life into that moment to just inspire them.
That's great. That's really great. Well, speaking of inspiring, where do you find your inspiration personally?
My first inspiration, I've talked about my faith, that's huge in my life. I really try to be open-handed. I think I definitely had a point in my life where I was just like, nuts. Nobody can do that forever." And
Right.
we all eventually like, "Oh gosh, I just gotta let go." And so I am knowing that at every juncture in my life, I wasn't where I was thought I was gonna be 10 years ago. I was like, "Oh yeah, in the next 10 years," very confident
Yeah.
29-year-old. And at 40, looking at what happened between 30 and 40, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I would have never expected any of that." I thought I was gonna work at Nebraska Athletics for the rest of my life, and that was it, and I would retire. And boy, did that journey go in a 50 million different places. And so, that inspiration for me is being willing to be open-handed with my faith, and then my kids inspire me at every single moment. Also agitate me, but inspire. Right?
Yeah, we have that in common as well, for sure. What's the best piece of advice you've received, and how have you used it?
The best piece of advice I've received is "The Great Ones Adjust." That was by Boyd Epley, who was the founder of the National Strength and Conditioning Association, Husker Power, and my former boss, current mentor. Just being adaptable. And that goes along the lines with being open-handed. But I saw that from him in every moment. I always saw him act with class and be strategic and also lead the way. I mean, he was a strength coach who created a global program,
Wow.
and that's not easy. I don't think people realize that. And so, really, just watching him in all those scenarios, it's ways I interact to this day, with having the great ones adjust and then just really aligning with people. He told me, "You're either going to create an enemy or an ally." Because if someone wants information there and they really want it, they're going to get it. You just have to decide if you're going to be the one to give it to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I am pretty open and will share resources. And I don't think everybody is always, in general, happy with people like that. Like they hold things so close to the vest. But does this leave room for anybody?
Yeah.
No.
No.
So I try to keep that as a part of
Well,
my life.
that knowledge and experience, when you don't share it, it's pretty worthless. You can't celebrate it alone. So, utilizing that as an avenue to really help somebody else better their lives in some capacity or build their confidence. I love that. What is the best thing a client or a colleague could say about Maggie Thorne?
I think the first thing they say is, "I have a lot of energy." So
I did not see that at all. I mean,
I hope so. I don't think anyone would say I'm a good dancer, but I do like to dance. I'm just throwing that out there in case anyone listens, they wanna compliment me there ever. Um, no, I think a couple things. One is the ability to lead. I really appreciate and enjoy leadership. I love building people. I don't think I can say that enough, to watch someone grow, push past their potential. Even like my team that I have now, I went from a team of 2, now I have a team of 4, and I'm so thankful for each of them. And I always wanted to know, like, I hope I'm not their final destination on their career. Like,
right.
it'd be so awesome that they're built enough that they could lead their own team or whatever that looks like. That's just it's really cool to see that, or see people's light bulbs start to make connections. So I think probably that piece of it too is they feel encouraged.
I love that. I love that. So, what, in your opinion, does the ripple effect really stand for? What does it mean to you?
Well, I know, first of all, thank you for your book. Uh,
You're welcome.
I was like, "I know what this is." And we've kinda talked about this, right? It's all the little things that before you know it, has this incredible effect. So not dismissing the small stuff and making all moments matter. That is realistically, like, sometimes we're so busy looking for the big moments is we can't see all these little things right in front of us. And this isn't a grab the low hanging fruit tree analogy, because I will never say grab low hanging fruit. I'm like, nope, climb that tree and get bumped and bruised and go for the top, like, it's not this. It's really that, like, the penny that we pick up it actually has value, and all pennies eventually add up to great value, but it just takes time, and that's the ripple effect.
I love that. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, what ripple can I be creating for you?
Tell someone to say, "I'm a good dancer." No, I'm just kidding.
Well done. There we go. We're
Yeah, we got
broadcasting
it,
on the
we
podcast.
got it.
I feel like we might need a whole nother episode dedicated to just this dancing thing.
There's a part of me, so I will say, we just didn't have a lot of money, so I would get my brother's, records or CDs or cassettes. Yes, I'm that old. And what was passed down to me was like Vanilla Ice, Boys in the Hood. I mean, so I actually have a part of me that's like, I wanna rap.
Yeah.
I've been at events where Vanilla Ice will come on, and it, like, touches my inner middle schooler that I may have had a sad day, and I put on Vanilla Ice to make me happy, and I will run to a DJ and grab the mic and start rapping Ice Ice Baby,
I love it.
and, there's videos on the internet somewhere of this where I'm, like, running around a crowd and people are like, "What?" And I'm doing the splits, and I even though I can't really do the splits, but somehow in that moment, my body's like, "Splits." So, I don't know where I'm gonna bring this full circle to, probably nowhere, but you're welcome, you got a blooper.
Well, aside from trying to find that video so that I can share it with everybody, what ripple could I create for you?
Yeah. You know, I think for me, I love this opportunity, but also I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how many other people can I connect that
Yeah,
would create another ripple in their life?" So I would love to connect you with more people to consider this opportunity and share with you and be inspired too, and then, let that keep going in different communities.
I love it. I love it. Well, is there a way that you'd want our audience to follow you? And are you on any specific social platforms that are, more of your choice or preference?
I love connecting with people. And Instagram, I probably connect with the most. I
Okay.
have a TikTok, but it annoys me, so I don't really do anything with it. Twitter is
Well, that's
kind of
where you could perfect all your dance moves. I mean, come on.
yeah, I know. I my kids try to get me to do that, and I'm like, "Wait, why am I bending? This doesn't make sense." Oh, but yeah, so I love Instagram, connecting there. I
And your
also
handle is what
follow
on Instagram?
So it's at Never Give Up, which is NVR_GVUP, but there's only one Maggi, no E,
Okay.
Maggie Thorne. So you'll find me. There's a little hot pink bow. It pops up, but it's just really fun. And they can connect through all that through my website, maggiethorne.com.
Okay, fantastic. And how might if they're interested in learning more about AIM, how might they find out more information there?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I've really gotten, as you know, interactive on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And same thing, look up Maggie Thorne, Maggie without an E. Thanks, mom and dad. Um, or they can message me mthorne@aiminstitute.org. Good luck spelling institute. I've worked there almost a year. I spell it wrong every time, so don't feel bad about
Well,
it.
and you guys have a lot of great events coming up, so it's definitely something to check out for sure. So we'll put links to all of this in our show notes so that everybody has quick and easy reference to it. And Maggie, I'm just so grateful you came on the Ripple Effect podcast today. I'm so grateful to know you. I look forward to finding some ways to ripple together in the very near future.
Thank you. I look forward as well. Thanks, Steve.
All right, ripple on.
Ripple on.